Alright, and looks like Dave is going. Um, so prologue isn't really much of a challenge. You haven't unlocked or you haven't really learned the dash technique yet, or the game doesn't allow you to use it yet. So it's really just jumping. So I'll take this time to kind of explain some of the movement. So basically, as you can see, you can dash, you can climb walls, you can jump, and there are multiple advanced techniques such as the dash cancel, which requires an input of a dash and then a jump quickly after, and it has to be on the ground, which can get you a bit of a speed boost. And then there's its other counterpart, the hyper dash, which is much slower to the ground compared to the dash cancel, but gives you a lot more speed. And I'm sure we'll be seeing like these runners both abundantly using these hyper dashes. And then what we'll also see is a wall bounce, which basically allows you to bounce off a wall when dashing, and then using jumping against a wall at the right input. As we see, Dave used it there, but he didn't get that trick complete. And Steven used it for there as well. And the first kind of mechanic that you see in Chapter 1 is these zipper blocks, which they're triggered by a kind of contact. So like if you touch them, they'll move along their intended path. And it looks like Steven is pretty far ahead of Dave here. Dave going a bit ambitious with some of his strats, and it looks like he's paying the price. And Steven has a fairly decent lead at the moment. I certainly didn't expect to see this in this race, because I mean, it looked from what it said on speedrun.com, and said that Dave had a much better time than Steven. Steven's kind of struggling with this. Missed a few times. Maybe he should be going... Oh, there he gets it. And he's still ahead of Dave, which is something I didn't expect to see, but... Here we have Dave going for the neutral jump strat. It looks like he's able to pull out Chapter 1 just a few frames before 4iSteven. I'm not gonna lie, I did want to see an upset there, but it looks like Dave was able to pull his city back at the end. Although 6 deaths, honestly, might not be. I'm certain he's not very happy with that city. And now in Old Site, what we have next is we have the dash blocks, which is my personal favorite mechanic. They allow for just such flowing movement and stuff. They kind of basically, you can dash into them, and basically you just move along kind of the surface area that the dash block spans over, which can allow for some pretty flowy movement. And what you'll also be seeing is you can jump out of the dash blocks to kind of get an extra boost, like horizontally, which can help in some spaces, especially this trick. Dave didn't get that trick there, but basically you can get some extra distance off them. Wait, was I calling them dash blocks? Alright, dream blocks I meant. I'm not sure what I was calling them, but they're dream blocks. I might just not know my terminology that well. Yeah, as we can see there, Dave used the dashing out of the dream blocks. Not dashing, but jumping out of the dream blocks to get some extra distance. And now we see him going to the longest room of Chapter 2, which, if a death here, can be very punishing. But it looks like he has it locked down. Yep, and he gets it fairly cleanly. As Steven is starting to lag behind a little bit. And here we have Dave going into the Awake section of Chapter 2. It's not really a challenge. I mean, there's no real way you can die there. I mean, unless you go for the strawberry, but that's not any percent. And basically, it's just kind of a test of how fast you can go. And people will optimize it with ultra dashes and hyper dashes and all that sort. And we see Steven going into the Awake section now, as Dave is now heading into Chapter 3, which also introduces these dust bunnies, which move cycle-based. And there are 2 different cycles for each room. There's the normal cycle when you enter it, and then there's the death cycle, which is obviously when you die. And that can kind of add a bit of a challenge for some runners, because you have either you try and optimize the normal cycle as much as you can, or you optimize the death cycle just so you have a backup plan in case you die. But either way, it's fairly frustrating. I mean, Chapter 3 is unanimously one of the most frustrating levels in the game. And another thing I forgot to mention is how basically there are some areas of the map where, or not the map, but some of these rooms where basically there's dust kind of on the floor of the walls, but it basically is so where if you step on that area, after you move from it, some dust will appear on the floor of the wall that you touched. So you can only really go there once, which can add a bit of a wrench for some casual gameplay. But a lot of the times in Chapter 3 we don't do much backtracking, so it won't really be much of an issue here. And here in the huge mess section, Dave, basically this is kind of not hard, but more frustrating, because these kind of narrow pathways in the huge mess section can be fairly difficult to navigate your way through perfectly, since, I mean, they're just so narrow. So you need to get kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of, you will often run into kind of corners or walls that kind of kill your momentum, I guess. But I mean, as he starts to hit more buttons in the huge mess section, it becomes easier to traverse through, so we'll see him having a much easier time near the end of the huge mess portion. Now we see Steven entering the huge mess portion. And Dave using a little kind of gap in the water between the water and the dust bunnies to kind of get an extra jump in there after kind of hopping over that platform. It's kind of a hard trick, I guess. I don't go for it because there's kind of not much room. There's not much wiggle room in case you miss it by a tiny bit. But he goes for it. Props to him. And we see him going for the ultra strat there. I don't think I went over the ultra dashes, which basically it's required. Basically, you're required to have an extended hyper dash into either a wave dash or just a down diagonal dash, which can get you immense amounts of momentum and speed, which can be used to kind of obviously go fast, and they're much useful in other parts. There are a ton of parts in the Awake section, as we saw earlier, where ultra dashes can be very useful. And we see Dave going for the fast cycle there, where he basically uses 4 chained hyper dashes to skip all those dust bunnies. And we see him in the last room before the Oshiro fight, which obviously I'll go over once we get there. So in the Oshiro fight, as we'll see, Oshiro turns into some big monster dude, and basically he also works cycle based, I guess, where like after a certain amount of time he will lock onto your kind of Y position and go in like a horizontal dash in that, like, locked onto that position. So you kind of have to stay away or just move somewhere vertically to make sure he doesn't kill you. Ooh, Dave getting really unlucky there. That was unfortunate of a death, for sure. But he's able to clean it second try. 4iSteven now moving past the huge mess portion. He's got the key. And now he's heading into the elevator shaft. As Dave is about to finish the Oshiro fight. And he cleans it out with a 5:28, I think. Which is pretty good time. So. Ooh, it looks like Steven forgot a coin there. A key coin, but he's able to go back, not really wasting too much time. And now in Golden Ridge, basically you have more mechanics. You have these clouds, which act as trampolines. And you can also kind of either hyper dash or extended hyper, as we'll see in maybe 1 or 2 rooms. And then extended dash cancel, which I think we'll see a bit more often, which can kind of, since they're trampolines, they give you a little bit more, or not a little bit more, a lot more height, which can allow you to make some jumps that otherwise wouldn't be possible without them. And we have the wind. I don't think I need to explain that. That's fairly self-explanatory. Then we have these blue bubbles, which kind of act as an extra dash, I guess, because you can move them in any of the directions, and they go about the same kind of length as a dash. And then you have these moving blocks, which are intended to move you in places, but we'll use them for other purposes, as we'll see on Dave's screen coming up. There's in this next room, you can use the momentum from the moving block to kind of give you a bit more speed and cross this chasm we'll see here. And that jump otherwise wouldn't be possible if there was no moving block, because we get on an extended speed there. Ooh, it's a rough death. Dave was trying to go for a little bit of a swag strat there, where he's wave dashing off the kind of tiny platform of those floating platforms, which is, there's a very narrow window to actually get those wave dashes, so it's a bit of a tricky strat to learn, but he cleaned it up second try, not really wasting too much time. And we see Steven kind of struggling in this last long room of the Oshiro section, which I believe is either the longest or the second longest room of the entire game. I may be mistaken, but yeah, I think either it is the longest or it's second behind the final room of 2500 in Summit. And he's having a bit of trouble. This room is certainly a big time waster because of how long it is, and if you die anywhere near the end, then you've certainly wasted a lot of time. But it looks like he's on track to get it now. He's at the very end of it. He's able to move past Oshiro, and he finishes with 8:28, I think. I might not be seeing that clearly. And now we see Dave on the cliff face part of Golden Ridge, which I forgot to kind of look at. And basically they throw these snowballs at you, which... Ooh, he almost got that save there. That was close, but not close enough, I guess. But basically these snowballs kind of act as mini Oshiros, except they move from the opposite direction. They move towards you instead of kind of away from you. Well, they move like kind of in the opposite direction you're headed. And they also don't have a notifier of where they'll be coming from, but they also have much less surface area, so somewhat of a trade-off. We see Steven now making his way through Golden Ridge, and Dave now is entering Mirror Temple, and they throw even more mechanics at you. As we'll see in this next room, they have these dash blocks, which move on a certain track when you dash. And then we have these red bubbles, which are similar to the ones we saw in the previous chapter, except instead of having the length of about one dash, they kind of go on forever until you either dash out of them or you hit a wall. And one thing I did forget to go over for chapter 3 and 4, but now we see Steven on it. He's trying to do the spike jump here. He's having a bit of trouble. It is a fairly precise trick, and there he gets it. Or basically you're able to, I guess, jump off the spikes by moving away from it and jumping at the same time. There's a small window to complete it, but it's been optimized enough, so pretty much all the top runners go for it, and it's basically free at this point. Ooh, Dave kind of making a little bit of a blunder there, but wasn't really that much of a big one. He's still alive, and now he's heading into the next part of Mirror Temple, the unraveling bit, which we will see after we see this kind of tutorial of a Seeker, which is an enemy we will see in the unraveling bit of this chapter. And this basically shows you how the Seekers kind of move, how they have their own like dash attack, and how they can't destroy those kind of translucent blocks, and those are kind of blockers for them, which we will see come important later on. Here we see, ooh, an unlucky cutscene retry there, but here we see, well, we just saw our good old friend Badeline. This time she's not trying to kill us. And here we have the first room with the Seeker. And also one thing with the Seeker that's pretty cool is you can manipulate their dash to kind of get them to hit all these coin blocks, or these coin keys, which I'm sure we'll see later on. Yeah, like see, he was able to get the Seeker there to get the coin for him, which does save a bit of time. And even the blast from those Seekers is able to collect the coins. So if you kind of stomp on the Seekers there and get them to and kill them somewhat near a coin, then they can kind of get the coin block when they explode and respawn. And now we see Dave has finished the unraveling section, and Steven is, he's completed the last snowball room of chapter 4, and is heading into the last little bit before it ends. And here we'll see from Dave is, pretty much the only prevalent skip in the game, Search Skip, which allows you to skip 2 keys, collecting 2 keys and using a red bubble to kind of get to that area he's in now, which saves about 2 to 3 minutes, which obviously is very useful. And Steven, it looks like, yeah, and he completes Chapter 4 with a 5:01, which is a decent time as well. And now Dave is on the Theo bit, which can be hard, but is also a bit of an interesting kind of mechanic, where basically like when you're holding Theo, as you can see, you can't actually dash. All you can do is jump or wall jump. But what you can do is you can throw Theo and then dash, and after picking up Theo, you're able to hold your momentum more, which allows for a bit more fast movement, but it also allows for a bit of tricky gameplay, since you kind of have to manage dodging these Seekers and where Theo is, and all your dash and stamina and stuff at the same time. We see Dave in the the third to last room in Chapter 5. He's nearly done now. And now he's in the last room, which you can't die from, but there's this eyeball that kind of has wave pulses that kind of move you back a bit. It looks like Dave is having a little bit of trouble with those pulses as he struggles to get Theo into the eyeball, but he's able to clean it up with a 5:46. And we have Steven, who at the moment is starting to fall behind. He made a bit of a mistake there, but this isn't really, I don't know. We didn't really expect these runners to be close, but I believe Steven is a 56 runner, so I'm not entirely sure if he could PB or not. I think it's a bit too early to tell, but it might be possible, so that would still be pretty good for him. And now in Chapter 6, there are even more mechanics that are in this level. We have these feathers, which are omnidirectional. You can move them in any direction, which allows a lot of optimization with the analog stick, because you can kind of move it in all 360 degrees. And we have these Kevin blocks, as the community has named it. Kind of shoutouts to Kevin, by the way. We're basically Kevin from Power Up Audio was the one who recorded the sound you'll hear from these Kevin blocks, the that sound. So, I mean, that sound is pretty amusing. So, just as a bit of a tribute and a bit of a meme, we named those Kevin blocks. And now we see Steven. He's now in the unraveling section. Now he has to deal with the Seekers. Ooh, he clutches out that one there, just barely hitting that Seeker on the head at the end of the room. And taking a bit of a death there. That's a little bit of a time waster. I don't think it's the biggest one though, as he's not able to navigate his way through the room the second try. And Dave here uses that Kevin block to get a bit of momentum, which I believe we'll see from him later on, with a trick right before the battle and fight. And now Steven heading into the search section. It looks like he is going for search skip. And he takes a bit of a death there, but let's see if he can get it second try. And he's able to pull it off second try, which is pretty nice. He did maybe lose a few seconds. Ooh, Dave caught in a little bit of a pickle there. He's able to get himself out where he kind of got screwed over by the bumpers with the feather, but as we saw, he was able to save that, which is pretty nice. Ooh, Dave getting that checkpoint just before heading into there. A very smart move on his part. Saving, losing only a few seconds there as opposed to like 20. So, 200 IQ play there. And Steven is now in the Theo section of Chapter 5. We'll see how he fares. Takes an early death from that Seeker. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Dave was able to get the Battling boost there, which kind of uses the momentum of the Kevin block to speed you through that one hallway before you actually get to Battling. And basically, in the Battling fight here, basically, instead of Battling mimicking your movements, instead she just sits back and fires a bunch of lasers at you, which again are cycle based, as many things in this game are. And basically, yeah, so if you're able to move quick enough, then you won't die, but if you don't beat the cycle, then Madeline beats you, I guess. So and here we see Steven going into the last few or so rooms in Mirror Temple. Yep, Steven is now in the final room of Mirror Temple here. He's able to stomp on that Seeker there. Oh, but he takes a late death there. That's really unfortunate. That's going to be a bit of a time waste there. Oh, and the Seeker knocks Theo off. I've never seen that before. What? That's really unlucky on Steven's part. Let's see if he's able to clean it up the third try. He gets that stomp on the Seeker, and he does clean that room up third try. As Dave now is in the second phase of the battle and fight, where she just moves these blocks on a cycle as well, which does add an element of kind of difficulty to the game. You kind of have to manage Battling's laser cycles and the block cycles. And Steven now is heading into Chapter 6, as Dave is currently there. Ooh! That was a bit of a rough death there, but that could have definitely been more costly for him, as this room is also one of the longer rooms in this game. And Dave closes out the battle and fight. And as we see here, Dave now has 2 dashes, which we will see in Summit being used, well, obviously a lot. as he just kind of climbs up to the top of this area here and closes out chapter 6 with what looks to be a 727. Steven taking a few deaths here. He's not able to get the Kevin block to do what he wants. There, he gets it that try. And we have Dave now heading into Summit, where we actually don't get many mechanics thrown at us for the first time. It's just kind of small remixed parts of each of the previous levels. Here we have somewhat of a remixed reflection level, even though none of the mechanics are found here. Where it's just kind of, the color palette is changed a little bit, but as you can see, the spikes look pretty much the same. As you can see, the kind of background there looks the same. So Dave closes out the 0 meter part fairly quickly, as it's not very long. And now he's heading into the remixed chapter 1 part of this level, 500 meters, which I don't know. I think I just haven't heard much. I haven't heard many people say things about it. I guess this is kind of neutral, but I would say I have similar feelings about it. It's not really good or bad, but as we'll see, some of these kind of sub levels in Summit certainly are either difficult or really cool. So ooh, Dave taking a rough death there. He wasn't able to save that, as he wasn't able to get enough distance from his extended hyper bunny hop. But he is able to close out 500 meters and heading into 2,000 meters. Not 2,000, excuse me, 1,000 meters. Where, again, you have the dream blocks. This level is really flowy. It's really fun. It's my personal favorite of Summit. I've heard similar reactions, but let's see how our runners do here. Looks like Steven is having a little bit of trouble in that one room. But he's able to clean it up, heading into the last little bit before he talked to everybody's favorite grandma and Celeste. And Dave now closing out 1,000 meters, so as Steven is able to get through the first little bit of reflection. And here we see Dave in 1,500 meters, which is, I'm pretty sure, unanimously the most frustrating part of Summit, as the cycles here are basically like the ones we saw in chapter 3, except ramped up a lot. But there are some strats, some of them fairly difficult to get through them. Ooh, Dave taking a rough death there. And we see Dave having to go back there, kind of correct his cycle. And we're going to see him do it again as he takes another unfortunate death in that room. And he's able to clean up his third try. So although he did lose a bit of time, he's still able to get through to the next bit fairly quickly. And we see Steven now heading into the battle and fight. I may be mistaken, but this is looking like a fairly decent pace for him. So it might be possible that Steven will PB. And now Dave going into the 2,000 meter bit, the Golden Ridge remixed bit of Summit. And we see him using kind of this wall bounce strat here, if he can get it. Ooh, he's not... Yeah, there he goes, where basically this kind of strawberry room is faster to go through as opposed to the normal route, so he's able to save himself some time here. Ooh, Dave getting screwed by that corner there, where basically kind of if you hit a corner at the right spot, it's able to take away all your momentum, which certainly isn't fun. And this room Dave is in, let's see if he goes for it. The auto scroller skip, and he tries it, and he gets it. He gets the first part, and he gets the second part. That auto scroller skip saves a bit of time, because, I mean, if you weren't doing it, then you would have to deal with riding that moving block all the way to the end. And he goes for the second auto scroller skip, which saves a little bit less time, but it's still there. So we see him getting near the end of 2,000 meters. And now we see Dave heading into the 25 meter bit. Also one of my favorites, because pretty much every single room in 2500 has some sort of skip or optimization that is somewhat hard to kind of pull off. As you can see, Dave is going for the quick strat here, which requires 2 wave dashes on those blocks. And now he's going for key skip, which requires 2 neutral jumps in quick succession, which can be very challenging, but he's able to get it second try. And we see Steven here about to head into the second phase of the battle and fight, where, as we saw before, Battlin is able to move the blocks kind of on their own cycles. And this next room, Steven gets it first, not Steven, excuse me, Dave gets it first try. And now Dave going for door skip. Let's see if he keeps going for it. So he doesn't get it his first 2 tries. He decides to skip out of it the third try. I guess smart part on him, because it only saves about a second. In before the entire chat says that his run is invalid, but yep, we see him going to the last little bit before 3,000 meters, and he gets it cleanly. And it doesn't look like Dave is on PB pace. He'd have to go through all of 3,000 meters in a very fast amount, and like very quickly, like about 2 minutes, which obviously is very challenging to do. I don't know how well even some of the top runners do in 3,000. Here we see Dave going for a little strat. You can kind of get some like wall jumps and wall bounces off like this wall that's hidden behind the clouds, which can save a bit of time, so you don't have to go to like kind of the long route. We see him opting to skip checkpoint number 24, and he's able to finish that cleanly. And Steven now, he's got his second dash, and he's heading into Summit very soon. And yeah, I think he's probably going to be on PB pace, since, I mean, for him to not get a PB, he would need like a 20-minute Summit, which I don't see happening. So there's that. Dave now in the updraft section, where this wind kind of propels you upwards. I forgot to mention, but in the 3000 section, basically, there is a new mechanic. It's basically a remixed version of the wind we saw in Chapter 4, where instead of the wind moving horizontally, the wind moves vertically, which makes, honestly, much more of a drastic change in your movement. And we can see Davis on the updraft section, where he's basically floating in the air. As he's in the last maybe 10 or so. Yeah, that's flag 11, so he has not much more to go before he finishes his run. I'm pretty sure that won't be a PB for him. Let me try and see what his PB is. Yeah, his PB is a 37.41, so it doesn't look like he'll be able to get a PB for himself here. But it still looks like a fairly decent run for him nonetheless, as he's going to the final 6 checkpoints of this level. And Steven now closing out 0 meters, heading into the 500 meter section, as we saw from Dave before. Ooh, taking a bit of a rough death there. That was a really close call. Unfortunately, he couldn't get it, but now he's on flag 3, nearly done with the run. Couldn't really control that feather enough, but I don't blame him. The feathers are fairly hard to deal with at times. And now he's on flag 2. Only a little bit more before his run is finished. And Dave closes out with a 38.34, I think. So 38.35, excuse me. Now Steven in the 1000 meter portion. Steven getting a bit of a save there. He got caught, like, kind of floating with only one dash. He was able to save it with the dream block. Ooh, just barely hitting the spikes there. And he's able to save himself there by heading into that kind of side dream block. As we see him going into the last room of 1000 meters. From what I can tell, he certainly looks to be on PB pace, but I'm not sure what his summit time is. So I guess we'll have to see. And now he's in 1500 meters. We can see how he fares. Ooh, takes a bit of a rough death there, heading right into the room. Playing it safe here in this one room. I don't blame him, because those last 3 dust bunnies can be very punishing. Ooh. And he gets that room second try. And now in the final room of 1500 meters. Alright, we see him taking a bit of a death in that room. Let's see how he does on the second try. He's able to clean it up. We see him on the snowball room where he gets hit by one on his first try. Let's see if looks like he's playing it a bit safe on his second try there. Going for the kind of higher up strat there. He tries for auto scroller skip, but he's not able to get the hyper dash he needed. Ooh, and just a tiny movement mistake there heading to the spikes. Ooh, and he goes for auto scroller again, and he gets it. Is he able to get? Yeah, and he gets the the wall bounce. Excuse me. And second try, he's able to clean that room up. And now he's heading into the final room of 2,000 meters. Alright, he's able to go through that room perfectly fine. He runs out of his dashes there, but he's able to clean that one up. And looks like he's going for key skip, and he gets it first try. He opts not to go for the retry strat, which maybe saves a second, but I'm not sure it will really punish him in the long run. When he's trying to go for that small strat, kind of in the little gap between those two spikes. And he does get it. And he's going for door skip as well, it looks like. Will he kind of... Yeah, he's still going for it. Props to him for that. He gets one. Ooh, he just barely misses it. And he's still going for door skip. He gets one. And he makes that small mistake. Is he going to keep going for it? Yes, he is. He's really determined to get this door skip. And he does pull it off. Congratulations, Steven. You just saved 9 years. Ooh, and takes a bit of a small death there. In that room, it could be much more punishing, so it's good he didn't die near the end. Alright, it says he has a 56 on speedrun.com, but it looks like on his stream he has an unsubmitted 52. But if he does clean this 3000 up pretty well, he could finish with a PB time. So certainly get hype for him here. Kind of cheer him on, get some numbers in here, because it's very likely that he could PB. He hits the 28 marker. And flag 22 here. He's definitely looking like he's on good pace. He's really cleaning up this downdraft section really well. I'm not sure if he's even died yet, but I really hope I didn't commentator's curse that. And he's able to clean it up easily as he's going into the updraft section. As he's on flag 17, about halfway done overall with 3,000 meters. Flag 13, I've probably seen, I don't know, I've seen a lot of time lost here over the course of the tournament. Let's see how Steven fares in here. And he's able to clean that up first try. Props to him as he's still going. Looks like he's going through a 3,000 meters on a great pace here. As he hits flag 9 and still has about 3 minutes to spare between him and his PB, because looking at it here, it says he has a 52.53. And now he's on the last 6 flags. When completed very quickly, all these flags can usually take around 45 seconds. So he can most definitely pull off a sub 52 if he completes this at a very good pace. Ooh. That's a bit of an unfortunate death. Just not able to get enough horizontal distance there, but looks like he's able to get it second try, which is always nice. And as he's on flag 1, about to close out his run. And he doesn't die in the last bit, and he gets a 51.11. That is almost a 2-minute PB. What a time for him. GG, Steven. All right, let me see something here. All right, it looks like Dave is on the server here. Dave, if you want to come in for an interview, that'd be greatly appreciated. And then if we could get Steven in here as well, it should certainly be good to hear from him after that 2-minute PB. Certainly impressive there. So,
Yo.
all right, Dave. It wasn't your best run. Obviously, it wasn't a PB, but it didn't look like it was too bad pace for you. So.
Yeah, you know, I definitely had a ton of nerfs going, lots of stupid deaths. Like, as you guys can see, I had 6 in the first chapter. You know,
Yeah, that looks pretty rough. I mean,
yeah, it was pretty good.
I mean, it looks pretty intense between you and Steven in chapter 1, so at least we got some entertainment there. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was doing pretty decent. There was a lot of good, some stupid deaths, but, yeah, I just kept my head on straight, kept going, and, yeah, it's okay. Sub 40 was nice.
Yeah, that's certainly nice. So you're, how many wins is that for you now? I believe it looks like.
That is the second one.
All right, so.
And then tomorrow I've got my race versus Hornlets, and that one is going to be insane. That one's going to be really close.
That's going to be a fun race to watch.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'll even be in town, but I think I'll be on a long car ride, so I'll
oh, nice.
try and tune into that, so I don't kind of die of boredom.
But yeah, congrats to Steven on the PB.
Yeah, that was crazy. Let me see if I can try and get him in here for a little bit of an interview. All right. All right, let me get the All right, so I sent him the invite to the server. We got him in here. Steven, congrats on the PB, dude. That was a pretty big increase.
Yeah, congrats, man.
Thanks, guys.
So it looks like at least in chapter 1, I think you were ahead by most of it. I think Dave, you pulled ahead by like a few frames with the neutral jump strat. So
yeah, I had so many deaths in that chapter 1. A lot of funny ones, actually, ones that I didn't even know you could do.
Yeah. So thoughts on the PB, I guess? I mean, I've heard from a lot of people say they PB'd, but they didn't like it. How do you feel about yours?
I think that door skip cost me sub 51, but I wanted to do it anyway.
Dude, you got it. You got it.
Like 8th try.
Hey, I went for it like twice, and I said screw it.
Yeah, I respect you for going for it. A bit ambitious, but at least you committed. So, there's that.
Actual valid run.
Run validated. So, if I'm not mistaken, did you PB in your first race, Steven? Or am I?
Yeah, I did. I went into it, I think, with like a 53 something that I got in between like when you were supposed to submit and when the tournament started. And then I got up that 52, and then this one's the 51 now.
So it looks like you're improving fairly quickly. I mean, doesn't look like sub 50 is too far, so.
Yeah, this is probably about my maybe 15th completed run.
Alright, so, I mean, if you're moving at this far pace, sub 50 will certainly be coming quick, so, I mean, there's still a ton of other races, so it's very possible you could see one during the tournament as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping my next race is against somebody that'll be a little more close. I had oddbod at like 4 a.m. this morning. That was brutal.
Oh, and then Dave, oddbotted.
That was brutal too. But yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for the commentary and good game, Dave.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks both of you for racing. That
Yeah, thanks
was
for having me.
pretty good race to watch. Congrats on the PB. Congrats on the solid run. It doesn't sound like you're too angry with that, Dave. So
No, it was all right.
yeah, and I believe there's yeah, right now on Speed Gaming 4 there is a race between Casual Knight and Link Force Zero. So if you're not already there, go watch that. A bit more Celeste action if you want. And yeah, I think that's all we've got for now. So thank you all for watching. Thank you two for running again, and thank you Speed Gaming for hosting all this.
Yeah, thanks guys. See you later.
Thanks.